Hello everybody, so I just thought I'd make this video kind of a reflection on what's kind of gone on over the last week or so. I'm not going to go into detail about the actual hearing because I want to do that with Shin and the rest of the people that were there with us, because I think it would be better if you get everybody's perspective, because there's going to be certain things that everybody remembers, everybody's got their own take on it, and plus it's not my personal trip, it's everybody's. It's not it's not it's not just mine. There's a few pictures from my trip up there. It was just kind of a reflection on what a kind of journey it's been. What a crazy situation to sort of travel all that way for that. That the primary reason was to see the hearing. If that didn't happen, I wouldn't have gone. But I have had for anybody that's interested, I've had a fucking amazing time. I mean, to think about it, right? For you guys that live in the States, I've never been, and I didn't think I ever would. And to sort of be in the States and spend time in Boston, which is just it resonated deeply with me, that city. I can't really explain why. I kept getting these like weird deja vu moments around the city, which was very strange. It's just the Boston connection to Lorne as well. It's just really strange, and Shin is from that area, and some other people that I know as well. It's remarkable, really. But it really it's left a bit of an impact on me, to be honest. It's been I've travelled a lot in the last few years, but this has had quite a significant impact on me, really. I could see myself setting out up there one day. But anyway, just a few pictures from the trip on there for anyone that's. So, to see, I'm not going to talk about the proceedings, like I said, but to sort of be face to face, shall we say, with him was a very remarkable experience. Like, I knew it was going to be weird, but to sort of, I walked in the courtroom on my own initially, because we went in stagnated, and basically just to see him sat there was very, very strange. It was such a bizarre experience, and he turned round and looked at me as soon as I walked in, and he looked directly in the eyes and then turned back, and then I sat there next to one of the other guys that came with us, and we were closer than what I thought, and it was very. I'm struggling to put it into words. Surreal is probably the best way of putting it, but there was something. All of the trip had this bizarre dreamlike quality to it. It was it was a very strange situation, and the sort of the drive up there as well. We drove through from Boston, so we drove through New Hampshire, and then through a large part of Maine. I think the overall ride from where we were in Boston to Cornville initially, we stayed in Canaan, was about 3.5 hours, maybe 4 hours. It was a long drive, but to see the country like it was, to see that side of America it was an unbelievable experience. It was really sunny and nice as well that day, which added quite a lot to it, put an extra layer of gloss on the experience. It was just absolutely a beautiful part of the world, and the area where Lorne lives, it was just such an unspoiled, beautiful part of the world. Like, he's got so much to be grateful for that he doesn't really grasp. It amazes me, like, how many homes have got their own acres, with all this unspoiled sort of countryside and whatnot. But however, that creates a problem in itself. It's something we'll talk about in future videos. is the isolation that he's felt, and still does, and that's why he clings to all the catfishing and whatnot. There's nothing going on round there. We went into, I can never fucking remember the name of that. What was the name of that shit? Hang on a minute. I've actually got a photograph on my phone. We went into a nearby town, right? Not far away from Canaan. We were heading back. We went to Cornwall and then we were heading back to Canaan. And en route, we stopped at a little town and there was a bar in there. And Skowhegan. There we go. Brilliant. And we had a few drinks in that bar. And we were speaking to some of the locals, and it was great to get their perspective and about how the economy works around there, and most of it is kind of like the fishing and hunting, and the wood, from all the forests and whatnot nearby. That's how they get their economy, and everybody knows everybody else. The guy in the bar said that we said, like, we mentioned Armstrong, and he says he's not sure specifically, it was just an interesting experiment to see if anybody had heard of him in the bar. And it wasn't that far from where he lives, and it really struck a chord with me, that, because if you think about Lorne's situation, and he's clinging to the catfishing and all that kind of stuff, he's got nothing else to do. He can't socialise. Now, he did socialise when he moved to Nashville, and Shin pointed this out, because he met the people that invited him to the barbecue, and he went to the karaoke bar, so he's capable of building relationships. I would suggest not with being too judgmental to the people that he was with. I can't see... He's not going to be hanging around with upstanding members of the community, if you ask me. But he was able to form relationships. He can't do that now. There's too much past the... We was getting an impression of, this bar in Skowhegan. He wouldn't have been accepted there. They want to know who you are and where you're from. I don't think they're bad people, but I don't think that they would accept him. And what and you can't blame anybody for that. So his ability to form relationships now, because of his RSO status, is virtually none. He's not going to do it. And of course, I'm not saying like I feel sorry for him or anything. It's not about that. I'm just giving a perspective on his situation. He can't form relationships with new people. So he hangs around with Tony and Wendy. And that's a dysfunctional relationship. There's no genuine friendship there. There's no genuine meaning. It's a relationship purely of convenience. There's no respect. And that's all he's got. And I did have moments. I'm going to discuss this in more detail in a bit of a committee type situation, because I think it's always important to get other people's perspectives. And we don't, my friends, we don't all agree on the same. We all have different perspectives, but we're able to discuss it properly. There was moments where I looked at him and I felt pity. Because there's a guy that's got nothing, and I mean nothing, right? And some people would say that's justice, and they're probably right. I'm not trying to like invoke any kind of... I understand people have strong opinions on this and say he doesn't deserve any pity, and you probably, from a certain perspective, you are right. I'm only telling you how I felt. I'm not saying it was right or wrong. I'm just saying I felt pity at moments when I looked at him, because he's got nothing, this guy. Nothing. He's got no friends. The only person that was there was his mother. He's got no job now. It's questionable whether he'll have anywhere to live. He's got a drink problem. He's got massive psychological issues. Here's a guy who's at the bottom. But pity starts to disappear when certain things unfold in the courtroom. Like I said, I don't want to go into massive detail. It's stuff that you already know about, but we're going to talk about it more. He blamed the internet for his being in the court again. He blamed us lot. He blamed people making money off of his name. He blamed probation. It's the same story as exactly it was when he wrote the lawsuits. He pleaded guilty. Initially, right, he's pleading guilty in court. Yes, sir, Your Honour. Yes, sir, Your Honour. That's all he said when the judge was saying to him quite clearly, this is what you're admitting to. These are the consequences. And then his defence through this stupid... Anyway, I don't want to get into that because that's shins. I don't want to... It'd be better coming from him. But suffice to say that he didn't take any responsibility yet again. When you see that, because the thing is, we all have, most of us, Lawrence doesn't seem to have it, but that doesn't mean that you can't extend it to people that don't have it, is empathy for another living creature, for another human. It's like, there's going to be the human part of you at some point. Maybe not all. I'm pretty sure. I don't think anybody else felt. We'll talk about it more. We're going to do a stream tomorrow night, by the way, guys. You see a human who's suffering, and at the bottom, there's a human part of you that will feel that because that's the way we're geared. A lot of us. That doesn't mean that you go over and pat him on the back, and it's just that's just the feelings that I had. But those feelings changed when. Number one, he started... Well, the first thing was he was denying being a predator, and the judge very quickly corrected him on that. That was done via his defence lawyer. Who I felt a bit sorry for him. You're fighting a losing battle here, pal. It's just... Oh, fucking hell. What You could see him, like, struggling. Do you know what I mean? He was like a fucking cat on a fucking frozen pond trying to, like, scuppering around, like, you know what I mean? It was fucking hilarious. But, the fact that it's not him. I mean, don't forget, people do this in court. It's part of the game, isn't it? You're not gonna... Most people will try anything in a court situation to get off. Let's try and remember that. If you're up against charges, most of the time, very few people will just stand up and hold their hands up and go, "Yeah, it was me. Do whatever." In this situation, because it makes it slightly different, because he's already pled guilty, and then he starts whinging, then he starts blaming everybody else, then your pity starts to disappear because you're thinking, this guy. I mean, he said everything that we know already, but this is a guy who's just in sort of penetrable to any form of responsibility, as we know. And what made things worse as well, this was the first thing, was when he got his mother. She got up there. She was the only one in the courtroom for him, and she had like a piece of paper in her hand. She got up to the stand, and she read out something that was clearly written by Lorne, because it was poorly worded. It was like, "My son's great. He does this. He looks after me. He cares about me. Blah blah blah." I think she might have mentioned the water, the homeless shelter that he gives. But it was just like she was reading it, and there was no sincerity in what she was saying. She was doing it because she's his mum. She's never going to turn her back on him. But it was like he got her to do it and put her in that position before he'd even said anything. All he did at that point, when his mum was speaking, was going, "Yes, sir, Your Honour. Yes, sir, Your Honour." And he gets his mum to say that. I'm like, number one, that's going to have no bearing on proceedings whatsoever. It was like a desperate move. And I'm not saying this to create rage towards him, because it's not healthy if you get, if you understand where I'm coming from. But it did piss me off that. But then there was the moment of him, of the which we'll go into in the stream tomorrow, of the amusing shit he came out with, which I fucking hell, I lost it. I completely lost it. And do you know what? When I've been thinking about what was going to be, what was potentially going to happen, I was like visualizing what was going to happen, and it was exactly as I'd visualized it in my head. I thought, you know what? Isn't it going to be amazing if he says a comical line and I just burst into laughter? What's going to happen? Is it going to disrupt the court? And I'd visualized it in my mind. And it's exactly what happened. When he came out with it, I just want to do my cooking show. That was it. I was gone. Couldn't stop laughing. It tickled me so much because it was so typical of him. It was so unnecessary. It was stupid. It was pathetic. It was him down to a T. It was humiliating himself. It had no bearing on things. It was like it. What it did as well is it highlighted just how out of touch he is with reality. Not that we don't know that, but when you see it in those circumstances, in a federal courtroom, you're like, what planet is this guy on? Literally, what is going on here? You just can't comprehend it. That's what makes it so amusing. For it to be said in that situation was so out of the ballpark. I'm adopting the American style of speech now. It was just... Did it say out of left field? Never mind. It was crazy, and it was hilarious, and I was like, I had to put my head down so that... I had to put my head down so no one could see me laughing. And I didn't want to disrupt anything, and I was like, I was giggling, and I was like, and then I'd compose myself. I had to do like meditations. I had to meditate to try and concentrate on the present moment to stop going back. So I'd compose myself, and then I'd stand up straight, and then I'd start laughing again. And I must have missed quite a bit of stuff, but I just couldn't help it. It was fucking, that one moment made that, not that the trip itself wasn't amazing anyway, but just that moment made it all worthwhile. It's like something I'll never forget. Just absolutely. It was just 2 hours of pure entertainment. It was like, I'm sorry for making this comparison, but no, I won't do it. But it was like watching. I'll say it. It was like watching a brand new fucking Star Wars movie. You know what I mean? It was like fucking hell. George Lucas has wrote a new film and it's coming out. I was like glued. Do you know what I mean? It's like this is fucking, everywhere. I'm there trying to understand everything, and Shin's in the back writing everything down, and he had his yellow legal pad and he's wrote a load of pages out, and he's done a massive service to the community, better than I've done, because he understands the process because of his background. It's going to be interesting when we do the stream tomorrow. He's going to add an invaluable perspective that I couldn't, that I don't think many people could. So we need, people already recognise what he's done anyway. But a big shout out to him. It's fantastic, really, that we get this kind of insight, really, and we've got some really funny stuff to share in the future as well, like some of the funny things we got up to when we were there. I think you're already aware of it from the stream that we did when we were a bit drunk. But yeah, so basically there's going to be... I mean, very quickly, I was kind of I was questioning myself before I went. I was like, what the fuck are you doing, man? You're travelling. I had to question my own sanity in a way. I'm like, travelling all this way. But it made sense, really. It was like, even some of my friends and people at work were going, well, you've been following this for a while. It's like, why wouldn't you? There's there's like another perspective that you're going all that way. Do you know what I'm surprised about? That very few other people turned up. I can't really get my head around that, to be honest. I understand that it's... I suppose maybe that's why I'm that I question my own sort of actions, really. But for me, it was a ridiculously rewarding experience to see what I've seen, just the like simple things of walking down downtown Boston and nipping into a bar and chatting a couple of girls up and having a coffee and reading a book and doing this, that, and the other. And they weren't underage, by the way. That was what I got up to in. Oh, said too much. But just little things like that, you know, seeing the countryside. You know, just a fantastic experience. You've got to understand, guys. This is what I was telling people when I was in. Cause people were like, when I was meeting people in Boston, they were like genuinely interested what I was doing there and stuff. And if I was enjoying it, for somebody like myself who's never been to the States, but yet my whole sort of character has been influenced by American culture. If you think about how big a Simpsons fan I am, that's, you know, the amount of American culture that's within that program. And, you know, the history that they go into about America and just how people, you know, what the country is like and everything. That's been such a big influence on me as a character because of my sense of humour and my understanding of America. That to then, in, you know, as I'm like in sort of midlife now, you know, to suddenly be there and to see little things that you wouldn't, if you're from the States, that you wouldn't even think twice about, like a yellow school bus, like the one that Otto drives on The Simpsons. Like, wow, look at that. And the cop cars, because they're so different than they are over here. And, you know, just the way people talk. Everybody in Boston was, like, super friendly. I was like, this is amazing. Like, I'm sure that there's going to be arseholes everywhere, isn't there? I mean, fucking Lon's American. But, just little things like that were just, it was really taken by. I was like, I'm fucking sure I've lived in America in a former life. To sort of be in that country under those circumstances was such an amazing experience, really. Invaluable, you know, so glad I did it. It was just a great time, you know. So anyway, run over up to now. Hopefully, Friday evening. It'll be 9:30 UK time, 4:30 in. I don't know what they call it in the Boston area. It's a wicked out. We'll be doing a stream. There'll be hopefully me and Shin, and hopefully Michael, who came with us as well. And I'll see if I can get hold of other people. Basically, I want to do it with everybody that came to the court hearing with us, so everybody can give their perspectives. Because there's going to be things that not everybody remembers, and between us all, we should be able to give you an exact, full breakdown of proceedings, because as you know, I've only danced around it because it's not fair for me to prattle on about it now. Without one of the people that came and met us said that he's adopted the word prattle because of the way I talk, which is quite funny. Yeah, so hopefully tomorrow we'll go into more detail, guys. You know, I know there's some people that are very anxious to hear all the details, and I just want to make sure that it's done in a way that people are going to get the most benefit from, because you know, we were there for our own enjoyment, but for everybody, you know, everybody that, you know, we've all been on this sort of bizarre journey together. You know, so I think it's cool that I were there. You know, I've made shitloads of videos about this guy. I've been involved in this stuff for a while. You know, I was privy to it. And I think some people are going to be interested in my perspective. Shin's perspective is invaluable, as I've already said. And then the people that came with us as well, who are also, if you think about it, you know, you're going to be massively into the Lawn Saga to go all that way. There's a guy who travelled from New York to be there. He was a fantastic guy, and it's all just fantastic. Guys, up to now, I don't